What's up, everybody? Happy Friday, Junior. We got 2 hours of Gojo and Golic coming your way right now. Going to be an excellent show. We will talk March Madness. We'll talk brackets. We'll talk why the people who organize brackets are severely, just not loved members of our society. We'll get into that. Plus, NFL rule changes. We'll talk about the proposals that have been submitted, if any stuck out to the guys. And the Masters menu is out. What did Scotty Scheffler cook up for the boys? All that and more coming up on Gojo and Golic.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield with you guys today. Fun one coming up. Download, subscribe, rate, and review the show. As always, leave it a 5-star rating and watch us here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the Gojo and Golic YouTube channel. Subscribe and hit the bell over there. Great guest coming up today, Jordan Schultz from Fox Sports, their NFL insider, also the co-host of Why is Draymond Green Talking About Football? Going to stop by and talk about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase negotiating their contracts like the stepbrothers, I'm sure, in matching tuxedos. And Notre Dame head women's basketball coach Niele Ivey going to stop by ahead of the tournament getting started for them tomorrow. But Dad, Jesse, we got the tournament getting started today in men's college basketball. March Madness tips off, Dad, and we have these debates all the time, and I don't really know how debatable this one is of best sports weekends of the year. It's really hard to replicate the singular force of March Madness weekend. It's like if you took the Super Bowl in terms of both diehard and casual fans' interest in this one event coming over, jammed it all into an entire weekend of programming that allowed you to start drinking and hanging out in the middle of the day on Thursday and extend that all the way through the weekend. It's truly one of the most wonderful times of year overall. But, Dad, I do think this has a pretty firm stranglehold on the best sports weekend of the year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people will talk about the Super Bowl, but that's two teams and a ton of casual football fans. Football is the most popular sport in the country, so it's more casual fans. This is actual fans of teams. I mean, 64 teams. You have alumni, you have fans rooting for that Cinderella story, that upset, and it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, It is without question. I mean, you could just flip. Some games will be blowouts. Some games will be close. Some will be upset. Some won't. You don't know which are going to be which. You have a bracket sheet attached to it, or in my case, multiple bracket sheets. So you're never out of it after the first 4 days of it. You're always in it in some of your sheets. Without question. That's why it's I think the most or the least productive work 2 days. That's why the increase in vasectomies happened, so guys can take Thursday and Friday off. I mean, it's a real work product to not work for those 2 days.
There's actually a
Jesse,
documented increase in vasectomies during these days?
Yes. Guys that were going to get vasectomies anyway, wait until like that Tuesday or Wednesday, get the vasectomy, and then they just have to put, the frozen peas on their couillons for 2 days and sit there on the couch and watch basketball Thursday, Friday, and then they have the weekend. So, it's a big increase in vasectomies.
I'm surprised more women don't try to plan births around that time, because you could just go sit on you give birth and then you have to do all the work to keep the baby alive. Forgot about that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oops.
Yeah, that's a little too much work involved there.
Chestnut.
Yeah, you literally birth the baby and the doctors are like, keep this alive, but men get a vasectomy and they're like, sit on the couch and watch basketball for 48 hours.
Exactly.
Must be
just
nice.
ice yourself. Yeah.
I went back and looked. This story was originally published on ESPN.com in 2014 and updated in 2021. But they said in the last several years, urologists across the country have reported increases of as much as 50% in the number of vasectomies scheduled in the days leading up to the NCAA tournament. With a little bit of clever scheduling, it appears men have found a loophole that turns one of life's more unpleasant procedures into a 4-day vasectomy vacation that coincides perfectly with Vasectomy Vacation is the worst fantasy football team or bracket name on planet Earth.
Oh, man.
But yes, Jesse,
hey,
that is a verifiable
that's guy
fact.
math.
And we also have the workplace productivity. Dad, you've mentioned that as well. There was a survey conducted by the Action Network that placed the NCAA tournament as a net probably approximately $20 billion loss in productivity for the U.S. economy. They surveyed 3,000 college basketball fans. 40 admitted that they have called in sick or stayed home to watch March Madness. And even those who aren't missing spend a full 2.4 hours per day checking scores, checking brackets, live streaming the game at work. And 23% of the average fans spend 4 or more hours a day checking up on their game. So that averages out to about $1,800, the cost average out combined with all the workers, nets the U.S. economy a loss of about $1.801 billion over the course of this. And that number keeps going 40%. Up. So $20 billion in lost productivity, I believe, is the number in mind for this year or last year.
40% of 3,000, I mean, is that have called in sick to stay home. And then, like you said, those that go to work, these games start at noon. I think 12:15 actually. Eastern time. So that's right in the middle of the workday. So for those that are that where you can turn your bracket in that wait till the last minute by there's some contests where you can turn it in up to noon on Thursday. Your bracket in. So even if you're at work, there are people probably still filling out their brackets, and then the games start at 12:15 during your lunch hour, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you are zoned out at that point. Because there's multiple games going on, and they continue to go on, obviously, into Friday. So, yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if there were some businesses that just said, you know what, we're just going to shut down. We're just going to plan around it and be closed on Thursday and Friday. Now, I can't get into all the machinations of that, of what if you would lose more money. I mean, I don't know that, but you know it's coming. So to be a boss and be a stickler, I'm sure there are some out there. I mean, there are some things you got to just let go, right? Let go and let God. And Thursday and Friday of the NCAA tournament are 2 of those days.
Listen, the economy can't get worse than it's been lately, he says, knocking on wood. So maybe a day off work mixed in here might not be the worst thing ever. If you are someone that's sitting at the office wondering, when do I need to put in the AirPod and secretly put my phone up so that things are going? Dad mentioned 12:15 on CBS, 9-seed Creighton versus 8-seed Louisville will be the tip-off for March Madness, followed by High Point at Purdue at 9:40. These are Pacific time, so 12:15 Eastern, 12:40 Eastern, 1:30 Eastern would be your first 3 games here, that last one being Montana at Wisconsin. So we come out of the gate hot, a little 8-9 action. High Point, one of the teams very much tabbed as a potential Cinderella in the field. So it's a great time for you to go and do that. And it is a great time, Jesse mentioned this off top, to get a little bit of appreciation for the people that organize these leagues. These are really the cousins of fantasy football commissioners everywhere during the fall. And my brothers and sisters in arms who have gone on and taken on this responsibility of organizing, collecting, herding the cats around your league to make sure that everyone gets their bracket in on time, gets their money in on time here. You're doing the Lord's work because, Dad, let me tell you, this is where you really suss out which of your friends you can count on. Who in your life, in your workplace, if you're doing a workplace pool, are the people that are actually dependable. Because it's not that hard to get the bracket in on time, to get the $10 that you're pitching in for this pool in on time. But there are going to be certain people that you've got to chase down like you're a college professor hunting a thesis at the end of the semester. So I just want to say a quick shout out to those people today because they are the unsung heroes that make all of these economies go, and they don't get nearly the respect that they deserve.
Well, it's easier today, isn't it? Because there's more ways you can transfer money. I mean, when I was doing this, it was basically cash. You had to give cash, and there was always those people that didn't have the $10 on them, or I'll get it to you. And some commissioners of the league would say, no, if your money's not in, you're not in. Others would let it bend, and then you have a prize pool of $1,000, but you only have $800 of it collected, and that'll last all the way through the tournament. If you're someone who won the money, you got to hunt down these people when the tournament's over. But I got to believe now, you guys, that it's easier with Venmo and all the different ways that you can slide money to what. I mean, I still carry cash. I know Mike, Jake, and Sydney rarely, if ever, carry cash. I'm still a cash person, but I'm outdated, and I know it. I mean, it is Venmo or Apple Pay or whatever. That isn't it easier in today's society to transfer $10 from one person to another?
Yes, but you're underestimating the laziness factor of you get the email or whatever it is, and you're like, yeah, I got to do that, and then it goes into your mental list, and then you forget about it. Just poof. So, I think the organizers of these leagues, if you really want to take it to the next level, send the Venmo request. Because if I'm getting a Venmo request for something, just pay it. $10, all right, accept. Send the money. But to go in and do it on my own, I mean, it's asking a lot.
Clearly, it is for a lot of people around this time of year, which is why I say, hey, your bracket organizers, your fantasy commissioners, lift them up in prayer because they are fighting a battle that most of us would wilt in. Dad, have you filled out do you have one sheet that you're more inclined to support than the others?
Yeah.
Do you have one national chant that you've entered into a place that you care about? Do you have a pick?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll always have one main sheet that I enter into a main place. Yes, but obviously I'll have 8 to 10 sheets that will go in others. But yes, I do have one main sheet. And again, when you have one sheet that you're going to talk about, because me talking about all my sheets is worthless because I have different teams, moving in different places. It's amazing when you do like one sheet or just look at one sheet, how chalky it gets, right? I actually do have an upset in the Elite Eight, but I have 2 number 2s and 2 number 1s in the Final Four. So, I mean, and do you know this? Quick quiz. The only time that all 4 number 1s made the Final Four.
Wasn't it? It was pretty recent. Wasn't it like 2021?
No, it was 2008. 2008.
Oh, wow.
North Carolina and Kansas.
Which is recent
and Memphis and UCLA. And then Kansas beat Memphis, I believe, in overtime. But that's the only time, I believe, that all 4 number 1s made the Final Four, which has certainly happened a number of times in the women's bracket, though that's opening up a lot more. But when you just look at one main sheet, you do kind of tend to go chalky unless you're the alumni of a lower seeded team and you're just pushing your team through.
That's amazing that it was only that one time, and that also in my brain, 2008 is still recently and not almost 2 decades ago. So that's the even bigger problem that came out of this situation. So that one sucks. So wait a minute. So who's your eventual national champion? Did you say your Final Four and your champion?
So my Final Four has 2 number 1s in it, Florida and Duke, and 2 number 2s. I have Michigan State beating Auburn in the Elite Eight. So I have Michigan State playing Florida in the Final Four, and I have Tennessee knocking off Houston in the Elite Eight. So I have Tennessee against Duke in the Final Four. And then I have Duke and Florida meeting in the championship, and I have Duke winning it all.
Damn it. All right, and I think we entered this one in the same pool. We have essentially 3/4 of the same Final Four here and the same championship. I have Michigan State getting to the Final Four to face off against Florida. I have Duke facing 8-seed Gonzaga. That's where I went out on the limb, was saying that Gonzaga was going to be the one that made a little bit of a run here. But I have a Duke-Florida championship, and I have a Duke win in the championship with a healthy Cooper Flagg able to lead the way, which almost assuredly means Cooper Flagg's ankle is going to be worse than he expected. Yeah. They're already hampered by injury in other places, and they're going to get knocked out in a round of 32. Yeah. I can't wait to build my church upon that rock. But yeah, that's unfortunately where we're at. I thought I was being real racy at this point by not picking Florida, because everyone and their mother coming off the SEC tournament, including all the analysts over at ESPN that I watch, decided that this was Florida's birthright at this point, which I get, but I just couldn't bring myself on this one. The first bracket I filled out after the North Carolina win, where I had them going to the Sweet 16 after their play-in win, did have Florida winning the championship. But this one that I entered in the main pool that I'm in, this one has Duke winning the championship because I'm edgy and countercultural.
Well, listen, again, when you have one main sheet, it's going to get chalky because you're trying to win the pool and win the cash. So you're going to kind of stick to chalky and take less chances. Now, you definitely took a chance with Gonzaga being in the Final Four. But how far do you have North Carolina going? I have them losing to Iowa State.
Well, so here's the thing. In this bracket, I have North Carolina losing to Ole Miss this round. In the other bracket that I filled out in the heat of the moment, right after North Carolina stuffed what's-their-name into a locker at San Diego State into a locker in the play-in game, then I was drunk on power. They made 1,000,000 threes. RJ Davis looks incredible. I'm going to send him to the Sweet 16. We sat here yesterday, talked to Dallin Cuff about this from ESPN. Cooler heads started to prevail, and now all of a sudden he scared me back into not picking North Carolina to make a deep run and remembering that North Carolina was largely bad most of this season.
That's the thing. And we used to do this when me, you, and Trey were doing the show at ESPN, and before that doing it with Greeny. We would bring on NCAA tournament analysts, not for the benefit of the listeners and viewers, but for our benefit, to give us I gleaned so much information off of them to fill out my brackets. That I still do that. I still listen to the analysts, and I'll change. I have a couple of scratch outs on my sheet where I changed, and I do have VCU going to the Sweet 16. Based off when we had Joe Lenardi on, he talked about VCU and Drake make runs, and I have VCU going to the Sweet 16 and eventually losing to Alabama. So yeah, I definitely listen to the analysts.
Oh, it's a must. And honestly, listening to the analysts and paying attention, like Dallin Cuff said yesterday, hey, pay attention to the injuries going down to the wire here. Those will have a really big effect on these things. But also, like, McNeese was one of my popular upset picks. They got the Rapid manager. They had Will Wade there. And now all of a sudden we get the news yesterday that Will Wade is going to accept an agreement to become the next head coach at NC State right before the tournament. I'm like, all right, this is kind of like when you get guys that are coordinators interviewing during the CFP. I'm not sure where your head's at going into this. It's no disrespect to Will Wade in saying that he does not take the opportunity seriously. It's just human nature that we can all only handle so much. And so stuff like that in the lead up all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, well, maybe one of my upset bids is gone now.
By the way, I see you picking up your phone. Is that what you're looking? Is that what your sheet is on, or did you fill out an actual sheet? See, that's the difference of you and I as well. I have actual sheets filled out, and I take pictures of them and send them into the contest that I'm in.
I don't have a working printer right now. It's a whole thing where they want to make you enroll into HP Instant Ink, and if you're not enrolled in that, it won't let you print. It's very odd. I don't understand it. HP, someone reach out and help me fix this. Yeah. It shouldn't be this hard. I like printing stuff every once in a while. I am your son. Like, a physical copy of paper does hold value to me still, and so it's nice, but I can't do it right now. So yes, I'm operating off my phone as we get set for one of the most consistently reliable weekends in sports, because all the stuff that we just mentioned, all your picks, everything you want out of it, the team that you're fan of, this is a product that always delivers because we're buying in bulk. This is a Costco run to the basketball store this weekend, and we are all going to find something we like. So 12:15 Eastern is when everything tips off. You're going to be ready for it. We're going to be ready for it. Listen to a little bit of the show to get ready. Start your early, distraction from work day now. You don't need to do anything that they want you to do over there unless you're operating some important nuclear power plant. Then please, for the love of Christ, pay attention. That or if you work at a hospital. Everyone else, calm down. Coming up next, we'll tell you which NFL rule changes actually have some validity to them. Next on Gojo and Golic.
Welcome back to Gojo and Golic. Jesse Cofield, Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. here with you. And it's that time of year, okay, when NFL teams send their thoughts, send their proposals in for rule changes to the league office. This year, no different, guys, but which proposals sort of stuck out to you? Did any make you roll your eyes? We've talked about the tush-push one ad nauseum, but any of the others for you?
Yeah, Dad, I think there were three main rule proposals here that are going to kind of take center stage in the way that we talk about this. The first that Jesse obviously mentioned is the tush push. The Green Bay Packers put forth an amendment to Rule 12, Section 1 to stop the tush push from happening. We've debated this one over and over again. Everyone knows where we stand on this. I won't care if it's gone, but man, the reasons put forth by Green Bay sound very whiny, and this sounds like an attack on the Eagles for being good at something that most of the rest of the league, sans the Bills, can't figure out.
So rule changes in the NFL are basically made for two reasons. One, injuries, i.e. see the kickoff, and two, what benefits the offense. Right? I mean, I'm not saying that as a disgruntled former defensive player. That's the truth, Mike, correct? I mean, what benefits the offense and injuries. And the study on the tush push reported zero injuries, and it's an offensive play that will normally get a first down or a touchdown. Let me just say that rule is going nowhere. That rule is not going to be changed.
Yes, and Dad, your North Star in NFL rule changes is the appropriate one to keep in mind, because while defense may still win championship, offense puts butts in seats. Everyone in every league known to man knows this. I saw Sam Schwartzstein the other day, who had done a great job at helping out a lot of the spring leagues get off the ground, has been a part of the Amazon broadcast, and has been someone who has helped create rules for sports leagues. And he said, oftentimes the rule is about what you don't want to see, and brought up the fact that most people don't, on a 3rd and 10, want to see a DB who's getting beat immediately go to defensive holding, knowing it's not going to be an automatic first down, as a way that takes away potentially great offensive plays. That's just how we're wired. And so the Detroit Lions, one of the rules they wanted to put forth was to eliminate the automatic first down as a penalty for defensive holding and illegal contact. And Dad, while I have a great deal of respect for the plight of my brothers in the defensive backfield, and I say my tiny offensive line brothers because I've always maintained defensive backs are just little offensive linemen with way more swag and confidence than any of the rest of us could ever have. But you're going backwards, doing one of those unnatural skill sets in football against some of the best athletes on the world. You don't have a lot of advantages. And so this would be great for them to be able to get a little bit more handsy, but we know this league incentivizes and rewards offense, and so this is not going to change.
Yeah, listen, and I wish it would, because it's third and more than 5, right? 3rd and 10, 3rd and long, and you get a holding call or illegal contact. It doesn't 5 yards doesn't give you the first down, but it's an automatic first down. That grates me. But to your point and to the point I made, it's an offensive-minded league, and in college they don't mark the ball where there's interference, and you see defensive players just take the penalty if they get beat. They'll take the penalty, knowing that it's just going to be, 10 or 15 yards and not at the spot of the ball. Also, Detroit has asked for this rule change, right? Since 2023, yes. Do you know who's had the most defensive holding and illegal contact calls? Detroit.
Boy, I have an idea. Yep.
Detroit has had 26. Then there's the Jets in Tennessee at 23, Atlanta at 22, all the way down to Minnesota. Since 2023 has just had 6 defensive holding or illegal contact calls, which seems really low. It seems really, really low. But yeah, Detroit, bottom line is Detroit leads the way. So they would like to be able to lead the way and not have it counted as a first down. Yeah, I don't think that one's getting changed either because of the focus on the offense.
Yeah, this usually ends up being an exercise in like the Mean Girls theory. Who here has been personally victimized by Regina George, and everyone raises their hand. Like, this is always about who has been personally victimized by the rule they want to change. That's what makes it interesting, because a lot of people on face value looked at the other rule that the Detroit Lions want to change, which is amending playoff seeding. And this one's a big one. They want to allow wildcard teams with a better record than the division winner to be ranked above that division winner. Basically, get the chance to host a home playoff game by not winning your division if, like we saw in the NFC North this last year, you've got 2 or 3 really good teams all in that division who just end up in the wild card by nature of the way that we've always structured this. Now, Dad, when you look at the way that this was structured last year, in the NFC North, you had multiple teams with 14, 15, 13 wins there in the Vikings, the Lions, and the Green Bay Packers. And with the Vikings and Lions, the 1 seed overall and the winner of that division came down to the last week of the season. And so everyone's wondering, hey, you're the Detroit Lions. You were the 1 seed in the NFC last year. What do you care about this? They recognize, hey, we were also 1 loss away from being the 5 seed and being in the wild card round instead of being where we were at in the 1 seed. And so they were trying to be proactive. Where are you at on this, Dad? This is the way the NBA does its seeding in their postseason. So there is a very, recent and apparent comp for all this. But would you like to see this in the NFL?
Yeah, last year the top 4 seeds in the NFC would have been Detroit sitting at number 1, Minnesota and Philadelphia 2 and 3 in whatever order. They both had a 14-3 record, and then Green Bay would have been 4. So Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay would have been 3 of the top 4 in the conference, which is oh no, actually no, Washington had 12 wins. Yeah. They would have been 4.
Yeah, the seeding would have ended up being Detroit number 1, Minnesota number 3, and then Green Bay would have been the 5 seed last year had that gone through.
Right. That's right. Washington would have been
the
in
correct
there.
order of that. But Dad, regardless of that, would you like to see this change?
This one I don't care that much about, but if push came to shove, I probably would go by record. I probably would seed by record. And throw out the division winners. Kind of, it's not as egregious as the college football rule of you win your conference, you get an automatic bye, which needs to go by the wayside. It's just you win your conference, great. It's just where you're ranked. Top 4 ranked teams would be the top 4 teams in college, which is eventually, I think, what it'll go to. So while this one doesn't really move me either way, if push came to shove, I would say rank by record and not division title.
I went back and counted over the last 10 years. This would have affected roughly 16 teams who would have been dropped back in their seeding based on their record if it had gone about. Unsurprisingly, this affected the AFC South more than any other division and the Houston Texans more than any other team, I believe, in this process. This is basically a rule that we think of, Dad, with the AFC South and the NFC South, right? Every year we look at those divisions as a little bit lesser than, and we see champions that sometimes get rewarded for having single digits in the win column to go up here and be one of these top seeds. I'm with you. I kind of skew, and it's so weird because I'm kind of rail against the conference thing in college and think it's silly to reward it to that level. But college scheduling disparity is so all over the map and it's so tough. The NFL is a little bit closer down the middle of the fairway because most of these teams, smaller pool of teams, the teams are all better. What separates the best and the worst isn't nearly as much in college. And this does make the division and winning the division mean something. Like, to use the NBA as a comp, I forget they have divisions most of the time. It's become totally irrelevant with this playoff seeding. And so if that's an identity that you want to keep here in the league, I saw Dave Hellman bring up this point yesterday, and I thought it was apt. If that's something that matters to you, you can't change this because that goes to hell in a hurry if you do.
Yeah, and I guess looking at it further, you actually could have a division winner not making the playoffs then, correct? I mean, that would be one of the byproducts of this.
Yes.
I mean, last year it could have been that way. Philadelphia, Washington, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay would have been 5 in, and you take 7. And the Rams and the Seahawks had 10 wins, and so did Tampa Bay. So you could, if 2 of those teams had 11 wins and Tampa Bay had 10, the division winner could be out. Now, I guess I'm contradicting myself. If you win your division, I think you should be in the playoffs. But if you go by this route, then a division winner, and we saw that, what was it, Seattle years ago, had a losing record and made the playoffs, were division winners with a losing record. So I
will say, Dad, I do think that the way this is worded still makes it sound division winners would still make the playoffs, but a wild card team could be the higher seed than a division winner if they're both in the playoff field. So I think that would protect that idea, much like we talked about with the CFP. So yeah, I do think that matters. So I'm with you. That one I'm lukewarm on. I would actually err to the side of protecting divisions and keeping that around. At Gojo and Golic on Twitter. That's something that matters to people, the divisions, the seeding in the postseason changing in the NFL, because I would not like that.
What about the other proposed rule change of changing the postseason overtime and putting it in the regular season? Where in the regular season, if you score a touchdown on the first drive of overtime, the game's over. Where in the postseason, thanks to Kansas City and Buffalo, Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, that rule got changed when Mahomes went down and scored, and all you saw is a shot of Josh Allen standing on the sideline, never getting on the field. So in the postseason, if the first team with the ball in overtime scores a touchdown, the opposing team gets the ball to try and score a touchdown. Would you want that in the regular season?
I'm fine with it. I mean, it'd be consistent. There's part of me that did like the sudden death nature of regular season overtime, knowing that when the chips are really down, we'd like to see everyone get a chance with the ball in their hand. But no, that consistency in that spot wouldn't bother me at all. What about you?
Oh, I think I would like it changed. I would like it. I know they say if you don't want to lose a game, don't let them score a touchdown. I get it. I understand that. But I think I would like the consistency that if you score a touchdown, the other team still gets the ball. I think I would like that consistent across the board.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right way to do this, is to not have such – and I understand the reasoning in general, and this is what we talk about with like some of the college football overtime stuff, is it's designed so that you don't have these folks out here playing the longest games in the world during the regular season when you're trying to conserve what you can with their bodies at that point. So I do understand the reasoning behind it. Unfortunately, but I'm with you. I do think in general that's a small give that we're talking about too. Like you talk about this all the time with the NFLPA. A lot of the things that we talk about legislating against, things like the franchise tag, affect comparatively few teams. The overtime rule is one of those things that affects comparatively few teams. We only get but so many overtime games in the body of a given season, and so I would be fine with changing that one. Speaking of changing things, Dad, with the NCAA tournament, we were talking about March Madness and bracket advice, giving it down to the umpteenth hour here. Our producer Bailey handed us a note that I think is important to get in front of people as they go down into the final weeks of the final hours, I should say, of filling out their bracket. So we were just handed the note that since 2004, every eventual national champion in men's college basketball has been ranked inside the top 12 of the Week 6 AP Top 25 poll. So Monday's AP Top 25 poll of Week 6 since 2020, so the last 2 decades, has carried some incredible historical performances. The obvious follow-up question is, well, Mike, who were the teams that were ranked in the top 12 in the Week 6 poll in the AP poll men's college basketball. Glad you asked. This is 1 through 12. Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Kentucky, Marquette, Alabama, Gonzaga, Florida, Kansas, Purdue, and Oregon. So, based on the last 20 years, that is the pool of 12 teams that you should be picking your national champion from. Dad, both you and I picked the Duke Blue Devils to win the championship, so we're safely inside those confines. But and it makes sense. It's the teams that are good for longest. So if you were in the top of the polls in the early portion of the season and you are still good at the end of the year, chances are you're just legitimately good and not some flash in the pan. So I can actually kind of see this, but how someone landed on Week 6 is a level of specificity that I appreciate.
That's amazing. I did not know that, and I wish I had. Well, I guess my champion and your champion and pretty much everybody's champion was in the top 12, though there is one number 1 seed that was not in the top 12. Obviously, Duke was, Florida was, Auburn was. Houston was number 15, which puts them outside that coveted top 12 spot, which means they're not going to win the national title. So if you pick Houston to win the title and you picked one sheet, you can burn it already.
Yeah, Houston, anyone that had Michigan State in there, which you and I had them both on the Final Four, sitting down at 21 in that poll. So unfortunately, not going to get it done for them. I don't know if such a history exists for the women's bracket, but coming up next, we will talk to one of the coaches getting ready to embark on that journey. Notre Dame head women's basketball coach Niele Ivey joins us here on Gojo and Golic. Coming up next. always fun when we get to welcome in our next guest. She is a national champion as a player in South Bend in 2001, a national champion as an assistant coach in 2018, and knocking on the door of the national championship now, back as the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. She is the women's basketball coach, Niele Ivey, kind enough to join us here ahead of March Madness, Coach, which I know all the craziness associated with this time of year has to be a lot, has to be very exciting. So how are you feeling getting ready for all that?
I feel great. This is the best time of the year, and it's sunny outside in South Bend. St. Patty's Day on Monday. So, I'm fortunate and blessed, grateful, excited to get back to work on Friday. We're just ready to play. So I'm super blessed.
Coach, I mentioned, your resume in the lead up just because you've worn so many different hats getting ready for March Madness over the course of your career as a player and now as a coach. And so I'm curious, what's similar about the feeling around this time of year for you, and what's changed as you've changed hats and changed roles throughout that time?
Well, I think the similarities is just like the competition, like the eagerness to play, understanding what this means, the magnitude of this time of season is so special, and it's the best part. Is the best part of the season. It's so exciting. You just feel electric in March. It's like when you get to March, it's like the excitement is on a whole nother level. Because the stakes are high. That at any moment, like, your season could be over with. So the sense of urgency just raises up. The level of sense of urgency just raises. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me. I think the differences is just, there's a lot of things going on outside of the tournament. Like, you got portal entries, like there's so much other things that are going on, in this time. So I think the timing of collegiate athletics is just it's different, but just the excitement and the love of competition, and knowing that there's 6 opportunities for you to cut down a net and be a national champion, be the last person standing. I think that's the ultimate goal, and everyone in this time has that excitement and eagerness to achieve that.
You mentioned there's so many different things for you to manage as the coach, for the young women on your team to manage as players and stars the way that they've become in the sport. How have you used the last week or so since the loss to Duke in the ACC tournament to sort of reset with either time off or the way that you guys approach practice? What has been your approach with the team coming off the end of your regular season?
Yeah, like you mentioned, just having time off. We were on spring break, the student body here at Notre Dame, and so I gave them, multiple days in a row off. I feel like sometimes as an athlete, you need that mental break, and that's what I gave them. That reset, recharge. They physically needed that break, and mentally, I thought it was something that could really help us as we are preparing for this run, starting on Friday. And just my approach when they returned to campus. We got after it, just got back to work, focused on fundamentals, basics, habits, things like that. And they were recharged and they were ready. But just really challenged them the last couple of days, just trying to get better with small things that I know we need to fix. And they were really receptive, and they came back ready. And we've had, a couple great practices. So I'm excited to carry that over on Friday.
Was there a little bit of, extra vigor because of how the regular season ended? How did you as a coach sort of diagnose where things maybe, weren't going the way that you guys expected towards the finish of the season after being ranked number 1, being in the driver's seat of the ACC for so much of the year? What did you identify, and how did your players take that coaching?
Yeah, I really identified the defensive part because I think that's what you can control. Offensively, we fell short. Couple of those games, just didn't execute, didn't shoot the ball very well, turned the ball over more than expected. So I kind of really focused on defense, and they responded because they know, like, that's the area that I think everybody knows that we need to be better at. You can control your defense. There are other things you can't control, and that's what I worked on. We worked on, and there was a lot of just competitive drills, helping fix those type of things, like ball screen defense, areas that we need to fix. I really focused on that, really challenged them, and they really responded to the challenge. They really rallied together. But sometimes it comes back to the basics, just fundamental shell drills. You got to get back to the basics to get better. So that's what we did, and they responded to it.
I always say leadership really shows up and matters most when things do get a little bit turbulent. You've got so many veteran established players and names on this team, but who's the voice that steps up when your team inside that locker room really needs someone to echo your message or to make sure that they're on the straight and narrow getting ready for this?
Yeah, I think Sonia has kind of emerged as that person for me. She's very consistent on the floor, and everybody knows that. She's kind of the quiet assassin. But in the last, this year, she's had to step up in that role as far as just being that voice for our team. She's somebody that I know will run through a wall for myself and for the team. And so I feel like she's done a great job of emerging and being that person for us that continues that message. I think Hannah, she does that on the floor. She kind of allows our captains and our leaders to do the vocal piece of it, but I think she does that on the floor, and Maddie and Liv, supplement what Sony does as well. So in every situation, it can be one of those three that are stepping up to help. So it's a team effort, collaborative with the leaders, and we try to. I've utilized their experience to help us along the way this road this season.
Sonia has been a woman possessed the back half of this season. Been so much fun to watch her. But Coach, you always hear there's only one ball, and you guys have so many great players. How have they all managed trying to go out there, understanding that they each want to impact the game in such a major way, but that you've got so many talented players that on any given night could take over a game?
Yeah, I think that's a beauty of this team. And every night I feel like this season, depending on what the game dictates, somebody steps up. And if somebody has an off night, you have so many players that can step up and help this team. And just it's a lot of sacrifice this season, and we've done that this entire group. I've had Leah, who was first team at Pitt last year, having huge numbers at Pitt, coming in here and taking a different role, but ultimately they want to win. And so whatever that takes is how this group has approached this season. And like you mentioned, there's so much talent here. So they do a great job of just finding that chemistry and utilizing whatever mismatch we have or whoever is that person that's got to go on that night. But luckily there's options here. So that's what I've been grateful for.
Plenty of great options. Certainly the first one that comes to mind for a lot of people when they think of Notre Dame women's basketball right now is Hannah Hidalgo. Sweeps the ACC Player of the Year awards, an All-American, finalist for Player of the Year. In year two, where have you seen her maybe elevate her game the most now as we head into March?
Yes, I think I definitely her composure. I think she learned a lot this season, having that year under her belt. Her experience has helped her get to the next play. Last year, she's so fiery, which is such a blessing. It's such a great trait to come in every night, having that confidence and that swag. And I think she had to learn, her frustration and getting to the next play all last season. So this year, I feel like she's come in, she's been more composed. She has more poise this year. And again, she's getting the best players on her. She draws a lot of attention, having a phenomenal season, being the Player of the Year and Defensive Player in the ACC, which is so hard to do. And she's come in with an incredible mindset. She's taken that experience and she's been more poised this year. So that's what I've been impressed by the most with Hannah.
I'm with you. Mike Tomlin always said, I'd rather have to say woe than sick 'em when it comes to having to coach that energy in a player. And Hannah's got a lot of woe to her game. And so it's really been fun to watch that for her. And then to see her out in the court, I know for so many fans of the team last year, knowing what Olivia was dealing with injury-wise, we all dreamed about what this backcourt could look like with the two of them together. How impressed have you been by Olivia and the way that she's reasserted herself back out on the court as one of the best players in the country?
So impressed. And she came back so much stronger. She worked on her game. She's worked on her mental side. I think she talks about that a lot. Because when you come back from an injury, a lot of it is mental. You're trying to build your confidence, trusting in yourself. And for her situation, it was her knee. So she came back confident. Her mental state was so much better, and she had that eagerness to play and the competitive drive to be one of the best. And so I love the way that she's returned this season, and she's having a phenomenal season as well, and just making her mark. She's been awesome, and I'm excited to see what she's going to do in March.
So, Coach, take us inside the moment. You guys are waiting for the announcement this weekend, and you guys see the 3 seed pop up in there. We're all human. We're all competitive here. What was that moment like for you and the team after this season?
Well, we kind of went into that tournament Selection Sunday, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So, 3 seed came out. We knew we were hosting. So just gratitude for that. Like, this is amazing to be able to host. And so we take it on more of, okay, we have another opportunity to play. This is another chance, to obtain, to try to obtain our goal to go as far as we can in this tournament. And so that was our approach. We were super excited. Had a little selection show party, got the nails painted green. So we were all festive. And then we saw that seed, we saw that road. And honestly, this entire group, no matter what the seeding is, what it was, we're coming out here ready to work on Friday. So that was our approach. We have a lot of support, a lot of love in that room, and just excited that we get a chance to play at home in front of the best fans in the country.
Got the nails done up, Coach. We always see you dressing on the sideline, too. It is noted. It is appreciated. We see you getting the fits off out there. But you mentioned getting the chance to play in South Bend, too, in front of your home crowd again. The environment that you guys have always had around South Bend and that home environment for the Notre Dame women's team has been exemplary. But to see the support from the community, Coach Freeman and the football guys, what a draw you guys have turned this into. What does that mean for you as a coach to see the environment that you've been part of helping build as a player and a coach?
It's so rewarding for me because that's the only thing I've ever wanted. I wanted everyone to come out to support our women, to respect our game, and to be in the stands. I know how that felt as a player to have a packed arena, especially at home. You feed off of the energy of the crowd, the support, the love that you receive. And so to see it, and it's kind of taken on a whole different level, honestly, and to see that in the growth for me in year 5, for my first year, we weren't allowed to have any fans, to sold out arenas, sold out games, seeing Coach Freeman consistently on the sidelines and his players and other coaches and colleagues that are part of this athletic department, and Pete, and my AD, who has been such an incredible supporter. It means the world to me. So I love this team so much. I have so much passion for the program and the university, but also to see the love from the community means everything to me, and I'm super grateful.
You mentioned, too, the support for the women's game here. We're at a time right now where the women's game, women's sports in general, are at such a fever pitch, and the W's popping off. You've got Unrivaled supplementing that in the offseason. The women's college game is as popular as I've ever seen it in my lifetime. As someone that's given their life to this game in the ways that you've had, what does that make you feel now, sitting here and watching the amount of people now looking up to the young women that you coach day in and day out?
Yeah, just so much joy. It's so much joy to see the level of respect that we're receiving, to see players just doing all kinds of things that are so magical. You see on commercials, we got Allstate commercials, we got Slam Magazine, you have, as you mentioned, Unrivaled that had an incredible inaugural season, the W, just so much, the viewership from the Final Fours the last several last couple of years. It's just amazing, and it's a lot of pride because this game has changed my life. Basketball has changed my life, and to see the women's game evolve in the way that it has evolved, and the talent is just so tremendous. So it's a lot of joy and pride to say that I've been a part of it, and also be a part of it. And the growth of this as a coach has been amazing.
Yeah, no doubt played a massive part as a player and a coach, and certainly leaving it better than you found it, which is all any of us can ever hope to do with the game that we're involved in here. Last one, Coach, before we let you go, and we really appreciate all the time here, but you guys mentioned you got the draw, excited for the home draw here. Stephen F. Austin coming to South Bend. As you guys have started to look ahead to this game now and prepare, what stands out to you about them, and what are you guys going to need to do to not only get the win here, but to start to build the habits you need to make a deep run in the tournament?
Absolutely. They're coming in hot. So they've had 14 straight wins, just won their conference tournament. They shoot the ball really well, playing with a ton of confidence. They're undersized, but they average nine made threes a game. So they really live by the 3-point line. And that's an area that we have to do a great job of defensively, taking away defending the 3-point line, and then just establishing ourselves offensively, but doing a great job defensively. That's where I'm at. They like I said, they're undersized. I want to be able to try to dominate on the perimeter and inside, but do a great job defensively and apply a lot of pressure to them.
It's going to be an exciting one coming up. Only a couple more days to wait. Coach, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Congrats on another stellar season for you and the Irish. We're excited about this tournament run and can't wait to watch.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Welcome back to Gojo and Golic. Some history made last night in San Antonio, Texas. Sandro Mamukelashvili had a game for the ages against the Knicks. So the Spurs won 120-105, but Mamu stole the show. He was showered with MVP chants as he made NBA history, scoring a career-high 34 points in less than 20 minutes, marking the first time it's happened since 1951-52 when minutes became official. He went off 13 of 14 from the floor, a perfect 7 for 7 from the three-point line, becoming the fourth player in NBA history to shoot 90% from the field, 100% on three-pointers, and 100% on free throws in a game, joining Tyrese Halliburton in 2022, Gary Payton in 1995, and Charles Barkley.
Hour number 2 of Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield. Thanks to Niele Ivey for stopping by. Head women's basketball coach at Notre Dame, getting ready for their tournament game against Stephen F. Austin tomorrow. We got Jordan Schultz, Fox Sports NFL Insider, coming up in a little bit. Broke the news on the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase deal, so we can go inside of that one. See if he can weigh in on what appears to be a battle across insiders for what the hell Aaron Rodgers and the Minnesota Vikings are doing in recent memory. And we get to look at Scottie Scheffler's Masters dinner, which has an interesting addendum to it because of a little at-home accident that Scottie suffered. But, Dad, I appreciate more than anything that Scottie Scheffler and his choices for food are essentially like if you fed every chain restaurant in your town into an AI and asked it to make a menu. He truly has the everyman's Masters menu every time he's done and hosted this.
Oh, I can't wait to go through that. He didn't get cute. He didn't get fancy. He stayed basically meat and potatoes type guy, and I applaud it. I absolutely applaud it all the way down to the dessert.
We will give you our Masters dinners as well. I have maintained mine across a number of years now and believe that I have unlocked a Masters dinner that everyone would enjoy and that no one has thought to do yet because the European mind cannot possibly comprehend. Speaking of minds comprehending, though, Dad, our producer Bailey has been bombarding us with stats about how to pick your March Madness champion as the show's gone on today. You have already filled out your bracket, so I know you're not going to go and change this now, Dad, but might I offer you some reassurance about your champion? Because, again, if you're looking to pick a champion, we've got some very interesting stats with which you can use to do that. You've still got time. 12:15 Eastern is tip-off of the first game here, but we want to help you pick the best champion if you're taking this thing down to the wire. So the stat we already gave you, that since 2004, every eventual national championship in men's college basketball has been won by a team that was ranked inside the AP Top 12 Week 6 poll. So had to be inside the top 12 of the AP Top 25 poll in Week 6 of college basketball season, all right? So that's one courtesy of CBS Sports. Then we have another stat here, courtesy of Sports Illustrated. And, Dad, this one has to do with the KenPom ratings. Ken Pomeroy's ratings in basketball, widely respected for the numbers he's compiled there. Going back to 2002, all but 2 teams that have been inside the KenPom adjusted offensive and defensive top 20 metrics have gone on to win it all. Those notable exceptions, 2014 UConn and 2014 Baylor. So, Dad, if we're going by that, we already read the top 12 teams from Week 6 in the AP poll were Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Kentucky, Marquette, Alabama, Gonzaga, Florida, and Purdue. And then Kansas and Oregon. So those are our 12 teams. If we then whittle out the teams that weren't in the top 20 of the offensive and defensive adjusted KenPom ratings, we are left with 5 teams that would have been in, or 5 teams that would have qualified for that. 4 teams that qualify both of those things that we've said here. Florida, Duke, Auburn, and Tennessee were ranked in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll and are top 20 in offense defense on KenPom. But it gets better, Dad. This is the final one and the kicker that will help you pick your national champion. ESPN has pointed out in their fun facts getting ready for the tournament that since hold on, I have to get this one pulled up specifically here. All right, here we go. In the last 10 years, no champion has come from the conference with the most NCAA tournament bids. That would be the SEC this year. So we scrub Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee, and you wind up with Duke as your pick for the national champion. So again, there's a couple of ones in there in UConn and Baylor that sort of are the fly in the ointment. But for the rest of this, Dad, we're talking about a decade, if not 2 decades, of statistical analysis that would lead to Duke being your national champion.
It sounds like Andy North talking about picking the Masters champion when he goes through all the machinations of have won, haven't won, and he gets down to a winner. That we pick us and millions of others pick the right champion in Duke. And those that didn't pick Duke picked Florida, which would bust one or two of those, not myths, I guess facts. So we picked the right champion. I got nothing to change on my sheet.
So yeah, that's what I did. I wanted to support your choice with work. I know this isn't a math test and we don't have to show our work, but again, top 12 in the Week 6 AP poll, top 20 in both offensive and defensive ratings on KenPom, and not a member of the Southeastern Conference, which had the most teams entered into the field this year. Again, the last 10 years, the champion has not come from the conference with the most teams. That lands you on Duke as your national champion. So Do with that information what you will. Thank you to CBS Sports, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, and our intrepid producer Bailey for going and finding these and helping them put them together in the Gojo and Golic March Madness formula for men's college basketball. So now that we've got that ironed out, Dad, we can turn ourselves towards comparatively more complex problems. And this was an interesting one that we saw in the world of Major League Baseball, and it feels short-sighted to even limit it to just that, considering this is kind of what happens where every once in a while sports gets an inroad into what's going on in the rest of society. But Jeff Passan really took up the mantle over the last couple of days for this Jackie Robinson story on the Department of Defense website. So for anyone that missed it, over the last couple of days, the Department of Defense, which has been going through their website and scrubbing any mention of diversity, equity, and inclusion from it as directed by President Donald Trump, the Department of Defense had scrubbed a story highlighting Jackie Robinson's military service on Tuesday before subsequently restoring it on Wednesday. While it makes no reference to DEI, the story on Robinson was among a swath scrubbed from the government website in recent days. And before the story on his service was restored, the URL had actually redirected to one that added the letters DEI in front of sports heroes. Now, Dad, the Secretary of the press secretary of the White House came out and made a statement that said everyone at the Defense Department loves Jackie Robinson, as well as the Navajo Code Talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, and the Marines at Iwo Jima, and so many others. We salute them for their strong and in many cases heroic service to our country, full stop. We did not view or highlight them through the prism of immutable characteristics such as race, ethnicity, or sex. We do so only by recognizing their patriotism and dedication to the warfighting mission, like every other American who has ever worn the uniform. So, Dad, basically they deleted this story because they're going and basically Control-Alt-F, finding anything that mentions diversity in any form on the Department of Defense website and scrubbing it off. And went through and got called out on it here by Jeff Passan and a number of other baseball writers, basically saying you're erasing the story of one of the greatest and most important baseball players of all time, but also someone who was one of the most important Americans of all time in a lot of ways when it came to how we deal with race in this country. And Dad, to me, in looking at this, the automated process that gets to this point is a larger discussion that we can have, and certainly the aims of scrubbing DEI from any mention on the website is something I disagree with, but also a different discussion for another day. The response here is what was troubling to me in trying to reduce Jackie Robinson's story, even in this facet, to just his service to the United States. We always say, Dad, in any Hall of Fame discussion, right? Can you tell the story of blank league without this person? Without so-and-so involved, and using that as a metric here. I don't know how we can tell the story of Jackie Robinson as a baseball player, as a serviceman, as a human being in general, without highlighting his race and what he had to overcome and survive because of his race in that process. It seems like a slap in the face to anyone with the ability to think critically.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what they did is they painted with the broad brush, right? They looked for buzzwords and they deleted a bunch of people or groups of people from history because of DEI, of which Peter Hegseth said DEI is dead at the Defense Department. So they broad brushed it. And they got rid of things, and then like Jeff Passan, called them out on it. And as you looked closer at some of the situations, like with the Navajo Code Talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Marines at Iwo Jima, you realize, okay, that the buzzwords took these people out, but they belong in. They deserve to be recognized. So this was the mistake. Is they went with the broad brush, just eliminated names by buzzwords that popped up and basically washed their hands of it until they were called out on it, and then realized that it was a mistake. Obviously, it was a mistake broad brushing this thing and recognizing these individual people or groups of people for what they meant to our history.
Well, but they're not. Like, that's my point in the back end, is they're not recognizing them for what they meant to history. They're recognizing them for the sliver that they want propagated as a part of their history. Like, to go and say, hey, we're going to recognize Jackie Robinson's service without recognizing the role that race played in his service, even if you want to take the baseball part of this out of it. Jackie Robinson in his service was a part of the 761st Tank Battalion, also known as the Black Panthers, and was court-martialed in July of 1944 after he refused an order by a driver to move to the back of the Army bus that he had boarded. He was later acquitted and coached Army athletics before his honorable discharge in 1944. But even his military service, obviously, because it was 1944, and anyone serving in the military at that point had to deal with some of the ill effects of race relations in our country that are an inarguable part of our history and that need to be told in the story of Jackie Robinson. So that's the dispute too, is that the response from them in saying, hey, we're going to highlight Jackie Robinson's service, but just in the service to our country, not this silly little thing called race that we don't want to have to deal with right now, in a way that, Dad, is impossible to, again, tell the story of Jackie Robinson accurately and dutifully without mentioning.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I mean, there were mistakes made. Like all politicians, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, you basically never admit to a mistake, and you try and come up with an answer that makes it look like you didn't make a mistake. So, I mean, that's what happened here. Again, they painted with the broad brush, and to not give full credit for what someone did. Yeah, I mean, in the history books is certainly a mistake.
Ryan McGee, one of my favorite people in sports and in sports media. Obviously someone who has a deep respect for both Major League Baseball and just history in general. And I thought summed it up very well yesterday on his post where he said, I don't care what your politics are. This whole saga is disgraceful. The digital equivalent of the people who threw black cats onto the ball field where Robinson played. History is history. Our past has never cared about our present comfort. And I think that's kind of the important part to underline here, is in an effort to make people feel less bad about this, it should not come at it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. There should have to be that understanding that this is a part of what happened, and it's part of what made Jackie Robinson such an exemplary American.
History is history. You can't change it or angle it the way you want. History should be history, and you learn from it, the good and the bad from it.
No, I would agree, and it's just interesting to see the way that mounting social media like, shout out to Jeff Passan, man. We're getting ready to talk to Jordan Schultz. Like, the insider game, as you know, Dad, is one where you're constantly sort of measuring sources and having to think about what you know versus what you can say publicly, and there's a lot of measured words, and oftentimes, you know, you're waiting on the news that you can just report. Very rarely is that a space where you can have a lot of big opinions and go and attack certain things like this. So, you know, shout out to Jeff Passan, saw this and kind of took up the mantle for being the one to send this through the megaphone and see if he can use his platform to affect some modicum of change here. And there's no way of knowing how much of this can be traced back to that or not, but at the very least, raising a hand on behalf of one of the greatest athletes in the history of the sport that he covers and trying to make sure that his history is covered accurately, I thought was pretty cool stuff from Jeff, and unsurprising given what we've seen from him from over the years.
I mean, we live in the sports world, so we're going to know what Jeff does, but I would imagine others associated with the Tuskegee Airmen, the Navajo Code Talkers, you know, there are other people that probably spoke up. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just guessing. We live in a sports world, so our angles are sports angles. But you got to believe that others spoke up as well, and then were answered in the way they were answered.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw, like, Mina did her FaceTime on Around the Horn about this yesterday. And to your point about the world of sports kind of intersecting with the larger outside world in an issue like this, like, I think I saw the president of the NAACP quoted that and talked about how important this was to speak up on. And so every once in a while, you know, for those in sports that don't feel like this is their space or don't feel as able to discuss these things competently publicly, which I sometimes get, this was the inroad where all of a sudden this was unavoidable. It spoke a language that we all understood, and Jeff Passan and others raised their hand and decided there was something to be done about it, and did. So kudos to them for that. Coming up next, we will veer back into our friendly confines of sports, and before we start to break down Scottie Scheffler's Masters dinner, I guess we're going to say Aaron Rodgers for the first time all show and ask Jordan Schultz if he has any idea what's going to happen with the former Jets quarterback. Next on Gojo and Golic. It feels like we are so deep into the NFL offseason and new league year already, but I'm sure it has felt like dog years for anyone in the insider game. And so for more on that perspective, we're delighted to friend, Fox Sports NFL insider and co-host of Why is Draymond Green Talking About Football with Jordan Schultz. He is Jordan Schultz. And Jordan, we were just talking off air about it. A master napper considering what the last few weeks have had to look like for you. So how you feeling right now, man?
I feel pretty well, getting ready so you start to think about the NFL draft, obviously, after the first couple weeks of free agency. But, one of my true gifts in life is the ability to nap at a very high level. I'm one of the best in the business.
That's a key gift. And to be able to sleep anywhere, in a chair, whatever, on a sofa, it doesn't matter. Just to be able to catch that cat nap is a beautiful thing. So I guess in between naps, we're all waiting with bated breath on what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. So what's the latest, if there is a latest, on Aaron Rodgers?
I think one of the interesting parts about him was that he was no doubt intrigued by Minnesota. At the same time, I strongly believe and have believed that Kevin O'Connell and that entire organization have been waiting, Mike, for the opportunity to make J.J. McCarthy the guy. Now, they thought he could have been the guy year one. He has 2 knee surgeries. Obviously, Sam Darnold ends up having a terrific season, and we know that story. But they drafted J.J. McCarthy 10th. They traded up to get him. They believe he has all the tools. He's 22 years old. He's very raw. He's green, but he is healthy. He's gained, some weight. I don't know if he's quite where they want him to be physically, but he has gained some weight. I say all this to say that I think Minnesota has looked at Aaron Rodgers and said, you know what, we are still in a good spot regardless of if you come or not. And I don't really believe that Minnesota has ever said Aaron Rodgers is our guy for this year. I think they've wanted J.J. McCarthy to be the guy, and they believe he can be. Pittsburgh, as it's been made clear to me, is willing to wait for Aaron Rodgers. There's not necessarily a hurry to get something done. And, then you have the Russell Wilson element. And it's been told to me as well that his relationship with Mike Tomlin is probably not what it was a year ago. Tomlin was a big reason why Russ came to Pittsburgh. Obviously, they didn't have a good, month or so into the season. The Giants are still on the table for him. But I think when it comes down to it, that Pittsburgh probably makes the most sense for Aaron. And the good part for him is that they're not in a huge hurry for him to make a decision.
All right, so we're still waiting for that one to eventually get announced. And to your point, it doesn't sound like there's an immediate timeline on something like that. So where does that put a team like the New York Giants, Jordan, who were involved in the conversations and a lot of the reporting around Aaron Rodgers originally, but seem to be the team left holding the bag now, the way that you've described the situation with Pittsburgh?
Yeah, and also I think, I don't know where you're at on this, but I would say this. I don't really feel like Aaron Rodgers is holding anybody hostage. I mean, if Pittsburgh really wanted to move on, they could. You know, they struck out on Justin Fields. They struck out. They wanted Darnold. They wanted Matthew Stafford. None of that materialized for them. So it's not like they're in this amazing position either. So it is worth saying that. You asked you said where the Giants are at. The Giants had Russell Wilson in the building. They had Jameis Winston in the building. I think they're going to go veteran, maybe a couple veterans, and still explore the Shedeur Sanders element at 3. We have to assume that Cleveland is at least strongly considering taking a quarterback at 2. There has been some league chatter that the Giants perhaps would try to trade up to 1 and get Cam Ward potentially from Tennessee. But I think most people believe, Mike, that the Titans are going to go Cam Ward. So all this to say, with the Giants, they need a veteran. It's not going to be some perfect solution, but they do have, and I'm not smart enough to evaluate quarterbacks or understand how that works when you're trying to find whether or not you have your franchise quarterback as a rookie. But I will say this. I think the perception is that because there is so much pressure on Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll and that entire staff to win this year, if they go out hypothetically, let's say they get a Jameis or they get a Russell Wilson, maybe they win 6 games, maybe he plays 6 games, maybe he struggles, maybe he plays well, who knows? But you can buy yourself time if you get a rookie, let's say it's Shedeur Sanders hypothetically, you can buy yourself time to ownership and sell a vision. And I think the Giants are really in the position now where they're exploring every single possible option, which includes veteran and a rookie, knowing that they need to do anything possible to survive this season.
So a team that's all set at quarterback and, by the way, wide receiver, the Cincinnati Bengals signed both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to long-term deals. T. Higgins had fired his agent and hired Jamar Chase's agent, so they had the same agent. How big a factor was that?
Massive. It was massive. The leverage that was gained from Rocky Arsenault to having T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and telling the Bengals, not only am I going to get one deal done, but I'm going to get both deals done, and it's going to be simultaneous, was significant. Now, I was with both T and Jamar in Miami Sunday night at Prime 112 when all this went down. And I gained a lot of understanding as to their process. And one of the things that stuck out to me was the significance of not only Jamar getting the guarantees basically into year 4, but having T break precedent with the Bengals and get guarantees, Mike, throughout year 1 and year 2. And the only time the Bengals had ever done that was with Joe Burrow. And T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Rocky Arsenault, a masterclass in negotiating, said, no, we're not going to do one or the other, and we are not going to do one guy gets guaranteed and this guy gets no guarantees. We are going to have you break precedent, and if you don't do that, we're going to go nuclear. And that was the difference. Also, Joe Burrow was adamant. Obviously, he goes on Radio Row and says, I need both guys back. I need Trey Hendrickson back. But they were it was imperative to them that they got these deals done together. They felt like, both guys told me, they wanted to remain Bengals. They felt like they had something super, super special with Joe Burrow. And on top of that, this was a little insight that I gleaned. I had no idea. T. Higgins grew up a Bengals fan. He grew up an A.J. Green fan. He really wanted to be part of Who Dey Nation. And they kept talking about, if we can just stay together, we can bring a Super Bowl back to Cincinnati for the first time.
Yeah, they'll need to build that defense up for Al Golden, that's for sure. As far as
and they still have
I got to ask you,
they still have the Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. They have to figure that out as well.
Yeah, Trey Hendrickson has one more year on his deal. I don't see anybody sitting for an entire year. Does that get solved, or does he actually play on that last year of his deal?
No, he is severely underpaid, Mike. He is severely underpaid, and he has told the organization in no uncertain terms, this will not work for me. It's not good enough. And so that begs the question, does he potentially get moved? I think yesterday's deal with Danielle Hunter helps him. If you saw, he got extended with the Texans. I think that helps Trey Hendrickson. I think the bigger question is, would it be some kind of 1 year? Would it be a 2-year extension? He is 31 years old, which for pass rushers is considered, older, but he's still a very productive player. He was a first-team All-Pro last year, has been a 15-sack guy pretty much every season. I think they really want to get it done. They've gotten 3/4 done with Gesicki and obviously the 2 receivers. I believe they have some momentum, and I have to believe that they're going to find a way to get that done. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's definitive, but they would much rather Cincinnati would find a solution with that number than trade away their far and away best defensive player.
They've managed to re-sign everyone else, so to your point, they've earned a certain amount of benefit of the doubt when it comes to their desire and follow-through on this front this offseason. Jordan, we've talked so much about quarterbacks, and understandably because this offseason is an interesting one, both draft-wise and free agent-wise, with who's available. What's the latest that we've heard on Kirk Cousins? I feel like a lot of people have pushed that off to the side once the $10 million roster bonus hit the other day, with Atlanta choosing to keep him around past that point came to pass. Does that make him immovable at this point, or are there still teams that you'd imagine may poke around there?
The Cousins thing is so tricky, Mike, because he's owed $27.5 million next season. His tape was not good. They just had this roster bonus trigger last Saturday for $10 million. And basically what's happening now is Terry Fontenot, the GM, is trying to buy time. He's trying to buy time so that he can find a trade partner perhaps before, ideally, or maybe even after the draft. The problem is that if you're bringing in Kirk Cousins, you're either A, bringing in the world's most expensive backup, or you missed out on the other quarterback carousel in Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Stafford, Geno Smith, whatever it is, you missed out, Sam Darnold. And so nobody is really excited about bringing in Kirk Cousins. And not to say they can't move him, because I think they literally are calling everybody interested right now. They're taking calls. They're really trying to find a partner. But the issue is that Atlanta wants whoever were to get Kirk Cousins to take on some of that salary. And that's a very, very big ask.
So in the flurry of the beginning of free agency, was there a move that surprised you the most?
I would say that Milton Williams we're really happy for him. He got a massive contract. I thought it was going to be Carolina. Carolina thought they had him. And then New England said, no. We're going to pay a tax. We're going to give you the ultimate salary bump to get you here. That move surprised me, not because Milton Williams is not a good player. He's a really good player. But it goes to show you that, A deal is never really done until it's done, because the Panthers, again, thought they had him. And then, B, if you can get 2 teams who are both having to pay the tax, Carolina and New England, because they're not able to sell, neither one of those teams has won. If you're able to get them bidding, you're in a phenomenal position. That's exactly what happened with Milton Williams. But I actually did like what the Patriots did. Did they overpay? Perhaps. But they got him. They got Carlton Davis, which is actually really 54 over 3, not 60. They got Robert Spillane, who's really this Mike Vrabel type of throwback linebacker. I like what the Raiders did. And I wasn't surprised that a deal didn't get done with Geno in Seattle. They had been negotiating Monday through Thursday. They were unable to find a number. He actually quietly requests a trade Thursday night. And then Pete Carroll says, hey, we've had great history together. You play your best football with me. Why don't you come on to Vegas and we'll find some common ground. That move was awesome to me, because I think Geno's best football came with the Raiders. And then another move that what I was surprised about a little bit? I was surprised that the Jets didn't really make a bigger push to bring back DJ Reed, because he was so good for them. Really their best corner last year. He ends up with Detroit essentially replacing Carlton Davis. That move probably surprised me a little bit.
So less than a minute to go, and I got to ask the most important question because you brought it up. You were with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in Miami at Prime 112, which is a well-known steakhouse. What did you order? Did you order the steak?
Okay. Full disclosure, Mike, don't be disappointed. I don't eat meat. I only eat fish. So I had the sea bass, which was excellent. Had a cold beer. It was phenomenal. But the rest of the crew went steak, burger, steak for the most part. And apparently it was excellent, but I was not able to indulge. So please don't be too disappointed in me.
Nothing wrong with seafood. Nothing wrong with a good fish. Absolutely. That's cool.
Yeah, and whatever you guys had on the table clearly helped get the job done.
It did. It was a very momentous occasion. The guys were ecstatic. They were grateful. They kept talking about going back to work, and they were ready to do it. However, I will say this. I went fish. I'm from Seattle, a lot of salmon, but it is sacrilegious for me to order salmon in Florida, being from Seattle. I didn't go that route.
That's true.
All
Good
right,
point.
Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed on that situation, which is unsurprising. But again, congrats. That was incredible news breaking there by you. An incredible job ordering by the rest of the table. Check him out at Schultz_report on Twitter. Fox Sports NFL Insider, kind enough to give us some time here. Jordan, great stuff, man. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother?
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right, coming up next. Getting real hungry in Augusta. Let's see what Scotty's cooked up for the field. Big announcements across the world of sports yesterday overall. Dad, I know you're a Netflix guy. I don't know if you watched Quarterback or Receiver or any of the NFL-related Netflix docuseries, but We got quarterback season 2 coming. Apparently, they couldn't coax the offensive line into this, which is unsurprising, or maybe they didn't want to. I'm going to choose to believe that the offensive line rebuffed their advances because we don't want or need that attention. But they're going back to the quarterback well and the Kirk Cousins well. Season 2 of quarterback on Netflix going to include the Atlanta Falcons' still current quarterback, Kirk Cousins, Detroit Lions' Jared Goff, and Cincinnati's Joe Burrow. So any of those intrigue you, Dad, of this next class of quarterback on Netflix?
Well, I think the Burrow one does. I mean, it was such a high potent offense that didn't even make the playoffs last year. And, he's been hurt a couple of times just to kind of see him go through. Kirk Cousins, we've seen before, but it is going to be interesting now if he does stay in Atlanta as the backup, and not the starter. So I don't watch these shows much. I tune into them occasionally, but it's good to kind of see the behind the scenes of players. And you're right about O-line. I guarantee you O-line would refuse to do this. They would not want the pub.
It really would have been a great year to do running back because this is the 2024 season that Netflix captured footage from. And, man, if you had gotten Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs in the middle of this running back revival, it would have been great. And the Joe Burrow one is going to be awesome, Dad. Obviously, now that we see T and Jamar re-sign, Trey Hendrickson hanging in the balance, to get, I'm sure, even more background on that from Joe and the way he's talked about it. Certainly tumultuous year for him with part of the home invasion spree of NFL and professional athletes. Joe Burrow was targeted in that. So there'll be plenty on the personal front as well. From the football side, there will be a lot of interesting color inside the lines in Cincinnati.
Yeah, there is. And obviously in Atlanta, I'd like to know the initial when Kirk Cousins gets benched, of what he goes through as not being the man and getting replaced by a rookie, albeit, which is pretty astounding.
Well, and remember, that was part of the last, and I should say first season of quarterback on Netflix. Kirk Cousins was one of the real big winners coming off that in his season in Minnesota. A lot of people really seemed to like what they saw from Kirk Cousins. I think Cole's cash got deposited at an even higher rate into his account after that than normal. And so it really, the takeaway here is don't be the Atlanta Falcons quarterback and accept an invitation to do this show. Because remember, Marcus Mariota was on season 1 and he got benched as the quarterback of the Falcons. And now Kirk Cousins falling victim to that as well. So Michael Penix Jr., if they ask you to do quarterback, tell them no, because so far that has been a real bad harbinger of what's to come for that show. So, again, going to be interesting. Burrow, Cousins, Jared Goff, any look inside the Detroit Lions, probably going to be a pretty cool one. Jared's had a nice career revival there. So, again, that'll be season 2 of quarterback coming out on Netflix. And then we've got the Masters coming up, Dad. Now, everyone's already had to deal with the big sads coming from the fact that Tiger Woods and that ruptured Achilles are not going to be at the Masters, and we're all kind of drowning our sorrows in that. Scotty Scheffler's 2025 Masters Champion Dinner is here to save us. So let me know what you think about this one. Every year, for anyone, if you're not somehow aware, the winner of the Masters the prior year gets to build out their menu for a dinner for the other Masters winners in the lead up to the event in Augusta. And for Scotty Scheffler's 2025 dinner, we got it as follows. The appetizers, cheeseburger sliders and firecracker shrimp, along with Papa Chef's meatballs and ravioli bites. The first course is Texas-style chili. The main course is wood-fired cowboy ribeye or blackened redfish. And the dessert is a warm chocolate chip cookie skillet with vanilla bean ice cream. Dad, I feel like Scotty Scheffler is cooking directly for you with this menu.
I mean, there is not one thing on this menu that I would turn away from. Now, I always said in my Masters menu, I would not serve any vegetables. He is going to have soy glazed Brussels sprouts, chipotle lime roasted sweet potatoes. I guess that's fine. I guess you have to, but I also think, you know what? For one meal, you can go without vegetables. But I'd probably have to have some on there. Potatoes are vegetables, so I'd probably have mashed potatoes. But this is, and Jesse's just shaking her head at me. This is a great menu. Firecracker shrimp. I am a monster fan of firecracker shrimp. Cheeseburger sliders. You get your choice of a ribeye or not just redfish, but blackened redfish. When I played for the Houston Oilers, I had more than a few meals of blackened redfish. It's just fantastic. And then the dessert, a warm chocolate chip skillet cookie with vanilla bean ice cream over the top. My dessert would actually be a hot fudge sundae bar where you could have your choices of toppings that you want to put on it. You could have plain ice cream, or you could dress it up incredibly well. But this is an absolute A+ for me.
I do have a question, though. I want to know what served Scotty style means about the cheeseburger sliders, because there's a little mystery there.
I don't know that either.
Yeah, a little bit of mystery. I'm interested.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I will look up the answer for that, because I remember it's something like very innocuous. It's like when they put special sauce on something and 9 out of 10 times it's Thousand Island dressing on a burger. But did you know that Scotty Scheffler, Dad, the story behind the ravioli on the menu, Papa Chef's famous ravioli,
meatball ravioli bites? No, I did not.
Did you know the story behind that?
No.
So Scotty Scheffler had to miss a couple of tournaments this season because he was recovering from a puncture wound in the palm of his right hand from a wine glass. He actually went into detail about this recently, that he was making Christmas dinner and he had injured his hand in that process. He and his family were making ravioli from scratch, so they wanted to roll out the dough, but they were in a rental house and didn't have the right tools to cut the pasta. So he found a wine glass, and that was where he tried to do this. He had my hand on top, and then the wine glass broke. And so he ended up breaking the wine glass and puncturing his hand with it while trying to home make ravioli. So the ravioli bites on the menu, a nod to the injury that kept Scotty out for a couple of tournaments.
I give him credit for hand making the ravioli, right? And being, taking the initiative of, I don't have the right things to cut, so I'm going to use a wine glass, flip it upside down to cut my ravioli. Now, it obviously ended up bleeding everywhere, but still, that's impressive that he made his own. Yeah. I like that.
I like that too. I also think that if you're choosing the blackened redfish over the cowboy ribeye, something's wrong with you.
You know what, Jesse? It depends on your day. If you snacked that day, if you had a big lunch or a big breakfast, and if you're kind of full.
Okay, I think you're anticipating the Masters dinner, Senior.
Well,
you might be
you're
like,
going to snack too much before the Masters brunch.
That's on you, homie.
Then it also would decide on, listen, now I know you probably have to order an event. You could change, but I mean, how many cheeseburger sliders you're slapping down as an appetizer? How much firecracker shrimp?
I stand by what I said. If you're choosing the redfish over the cowboy ribeye, you should be taken out back.
Yeah, you got to lock in.
I'm telling you, there's part of me that may choose the redfish because I would eat so many cheeseburger sliders and so much firecracker shrimp and meatball and ravioli. I mean, those aren't light products. Those aren't light appetizers. The shrimp maybe a little bit, but sweet Thai chill and sriracha mayo, I mean, that's making it a little heavy. Cheeseburger sliders, meatball and ravioli bites, those are heavy apps.
I said what I said.
That could fill you up.
I said what I said.
Jesse, I agree with you. Knowing my father for 34 going on 35 years of my life now, there is one thing I can say. There is no way on God's green earth that he's not doing the ribeye if he is at Scotty Scheffler's Masters brunch here. By the way, Dad, Scotty style, for those that forgot last time, including me, Scotty likes fries on his burger, so it is literally just putting fries on the slider, and that makes it Scotty style. Wow. Scotty's role as the most basic human being on earth, who just happens to be the world's most effective golfer, never fails to make my heart sing. And for what it's worth, Dad, I want to know in the minute we have left what your basis of your meal would be. Mine is always simple. I've said this for a few years now. Hibachi. I would do hibachi at the Masters lunch. Everyone loves it. No one has the balls to put it there. I do. I'm different. What about you?
I have said mine time and time again that I would have sliders as appetizers. I love the firecracker shrimp. I would add to it. I would have a meat choice like a steak, and I would have a fish choice like he has as well. I would have mashed potatoes and probably green beans. Those are my two favorites, mashed potatoes and green beans. And then I would have the hot fudge sundae bar, where you could go from basic ice cream to just deck your sundae out. They'll give you your choice.
And I would see which of the golfers on the tour could catch shrimp. All right, time to finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you off into the rest of the day. The first day of March Madness on the men's side here. Happy Thursday. As always, download, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Leave us a 5-star rating and watch us live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Our YouTube channel, Gojo and Golic. Subscribe and hit the bell over there. Thank you to our guest today, Niele Ivey, the Notre Dame women's basketball coach, and Fox Sports NFL insider Jordan Schultz for joining us both. If you missed those, check it out wherever you get our podcast or right here on YouTube as soon as we get done with the show. Let's start off with this. God, I can't imagine what this is going to do to my dad's brain. After being blocked 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Keon Hardman secured the votes needed to rename 24 streets in Miami after famous artists from the Miami area. That includes naming a portion of Northwest 69th Street as Still the Baddest Street, a reference to the rapper Trina, and part of Northwest 64th Street as the I Deserve It All Street after the song by Ball Jeezy. So, Dad, if you could have a favorite musical artist of yours, song as your street name, who would the artist be and what would the song be?
Probably a Gordon Lightfoot song, I'd imagine. Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is probably too long of a street name, but that would probably be grab everybody's attention.
I would like to see, much like on the back of a jersey, when you've got a name that's incredibly long that they've got to try and jam into the shoulder pads of somebody. I would love to see the poor person in charge of making the street sign who had to try and fit Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald Boulevard onto the street by my parents' house. Yeah. Jesse, what about you? Do you have a pick for an artist or a song that you would like?
I would love to live on Mr. Brightside Ave. I think that would just make me really happy every time I had to write my address or give my address out or anything. Or just The Killers. That'd be kind of sick.
Oh, that'd be nice. How about you, Mike?
I mean, it would have to be a Taylor Swift song, whether it was Cruel Summer Circle or Cruel Summer Boulevard, 22 Street, which could be confused with 22 Jump Street, and that opens you up to a lot. So not sure with that one. I like Mr. Brightside Ave, though. Think about every time you open up your garage, you are technically coming out of your cage and doing just fine. That's perfect.
God, it is perfect. It is really perfect. But my favorite part about this is the commissioners, this is a simulation. This is not real life. The commissioner said, we want a place that is always sizzling. This is vibrant and dynamic. What? This is a city. What are we talking about? We just got to keep the vibe right? What?
Yeah, and
vibes are off, man. You got to recorrect.
Not everybody agreed to it. Cohen Higgins, one of the voters voted no, said, I just can't buy into this vision. Eileen Higgins joined the yes side after Hardiman agreed to her one demand, which was drop the plan to rename a side street Grind With Me Terrace. She said, I did read the lyrics. Grind doesn't mean work. It means what you think it means. so he did change it to another song. But my question would be, how quickly do those go into Google Maps? So when you're Googling directions, that these new names show up? Or is it going to be by the old name until the new names show up so you don't get confused or not find where you're going?
I don't know. It said Gulf of America pretty quickly after that whole thing. So yeah, I feel like it could be pretty immediate.
That's true.
Yeah.
Turn right on Hotel Room by Mr. 305. Dale.
Oh,
Turn left on The Giver. It's coming to a Miami street near you. Jesse, let's get to that here. Major League Baseball, in the lead up to their season, has done such an incredible job rolling out their new freaky menu items. And this one, I think, might actually appeal to Dad more than me, considering I've been freaking out about all the food ones.
The Mariners are introducing the Trident's Up Cup. Okay, it's a novelty cup. Comes with 32 ounces of soda and free refills for $24.99. You sick freaks. How do you feel about this? It looks unwieldy. It's kind of weird to hold. Kind of looks a little, you know.
Well, it's pretty phallic. It is pretty phallic. We can all go ahead and say that. It looks kind of like a penis.
Yeah.
But that being said, Dad, I think the reason they specify soda is because I feel like selling 32 ounces of beer and then giving you a cup that can turn around and become, like, at the very least, an annoying weapon in the seat is probably something they want to avoid. I wonder if you could convince one of the attendants to put beer in that, because that would put it over the top for me.
I mean, that would be just asking for too much trouble to have free refills of beer. Soda, you just load up on the soda and sugar, unless it's diet, sugar spike yourself. So listen, I'm all for free refills of soda, free refills of popcorn at a movie theater. I'm all for that. So, and real quick, going back to Mike, your mother just texted me, and it's very true. Another Gordon Lightfoot song, and there's already out here in Arizona, Carefree Highway. It's already a highway out here, and that's one of his great songs, Carefree Highway. I mean, how awesome is that?
Wow.
Already there.
Hey, Miami, get with the times. Arizona's not new to this. They're true to this, and they're already out here honoring the great Gordon Lightfoot. So step up to the plate right now. Be interested to see what the Diamondbacks trot out. I have to go look. We need to put together a master listing of all of the menu offerings around Major League Baseball parks going into the season, because you know what it is, Dad. It's a copycat league, and it's constant one-upsmanship where I feel like they're all searching for the newest and biggest menu item that they can add food or beverage-wise, and we need to chronicle that. My dream going forward into the new world, and Lord knows, I mean, we've got, 6 shows left after this. I might have some free time to go and visit the ballparks of America and sample all of these foods in a way that seems like my destiny at this point.
It's tricky because you want to get something different. You want to kind of make it big, but you have to be careful of how messy you make it, right? Because people are eating it on their laps. So you have some constraints.
This is my thought. It's the ballpark. You're there to get messy. Peanuts and Cracker Jacks you've been eating at baseball parks for years, and we see peanut shells all over the place. It's a messy place. My biggest concern, quite honestly now, Dad, as someone that did this recently at a Dodger game last year, was the pitch clock, where you go and these items take a little bit longer to create, and in the pitch clock era, you're missing more baseball at this point with that.
True.
So something to keep an eye on. Maybe we'll turn this into a summer side quest as we get some time freed up. But Jesse, let's get to the third. The Mummy was on last night on TV, so this feels like an appropriate segue into the last part of the show.
So scientists have used sonar to discover a new structure underneath one of the pyramids of Giza. So essentially, they used this sonar technology. They found a series of megastructures, including 8 tubular wells leading down into 2 cubic chambers below the ground. Listen, all I can say is don't open it. Don't.
Nope.
Open it. Do not go down there. Leave it where it is. We don't need to crack open some kind of a eternal tomb and release upon the earth whatever is in there. So let's just Leave it closed. Cool, you found it with sonar. Thank you very much, but we're good.
Listen, this is the mummy. I was told in the family text, hey, Dad, the mummy's on, but your mother was in the room and she wouldn't let me put it on. It is. It's to show the mummy. I mean, you open it up and there's death everywhere.
Yeah.
Let sleeping mummies lie. Don't open them up. No, just let them be. Let them be. They're there for a reason. They're buried for a reason. Leave them buried. Don't bring death upon us.
Agreed.
Could you imagine how scary it would be to, one, this knowledge now going around the pyramids of Giza, which seems like a great trip, but knowing this is inside there now, a new potential monster lurking. Imagine how scary it would be to be on vacation. You've saved up your whole life. You've wanted this to go. And all of a sudden, if you were out there, what if Brendan Fraser was on the same trip as you and you saw him snooping around? You've got to run immediately, right? Like if you see him there, it's got to trigger your fight or flight reflexes and you got to get the hell out of there.
100%.
And don't touch anything because it triggers traps. If you touch stuff, spears will come out of the walls will close in on you. It's just not worth it. Yeah. Let sleeping mummies lie.
Or send the robots in. You know what? Maybe the robots can get destroyed by the curse, and then we can save all of us.
There you go.
Yeah.
No one needs that advice, Dad, more than you. Famous toucher of art in museums and things you're not supposed to touch. So you, if we take you to the pyramids, keep your hands off the merch. Make sure you keep your hand on the review button here. Download, subscribe, rate, review. Check us out here tomorrow. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you then.